Hello, Coach Carolyn here. For today's episode, I got a group of 3 women together. I like to call these my panels of perspective, since to me, it really is about learning about each other, hearing each other's challenges, learning their celebrations, and so much more. No one menopausal journey is the same, and I've learned that over and over again from the discussions I've had over the years. And really, at the same time, many women, as a result of this journey, can feel very alone during this time. They can feel invisible, as I've mentioned in previous episodes. So I love to do these panels so that all women can hear what different women go through. But really as well, for those women who feel alone, perhaps they hear something that connects with their journey or is something similar to what they've gone through. And therefore, it allows them to not feel alone anymore. And it maybe inspires them to do some research. And also, perhaps it allows them to learn about their challenges and even reach out for support too. We all know that when women share, we learn, we inspire, we feel supported. And my friends, at the end of the day, we then really sparkle together. Enjoy the episode. So welcome to this week's episode of the Modern Woman's Menopause Show. I'm excited about this one, and I'm talking with 3 wonderful women here, Lorna Gunning-Frachko, Cindy Benning, and Rhonda Knoll. So thank you all very, very much for being here. What I love about doing these, I like to call them the panels of perspective, because I think everybody has a different story and a different perspective. And so first of all, thank you so much, really, for you all coming out today. It's all time out of your schedules. But I think it's really important that other women hear women's stories, because it's when we share them, that's when somebody watching might have thought they were very alone, and then they realize, oh, well, somebody else is going through that. So if you don't mind, let's start with that. We'll start with you, Lorna. And do you have a menopause story? Is there something, what's your journey into menopause-dom, shall we say?
Carolyn, I think, at the time when I went through menopause, people still wore suits.
Okay.
At work. People still really dressed for work. So that was one thing. It's difficult sitting in a meeting, around the boardroom table, and all of a sudden, you're a gazillion degrees hot. Yeah. So I really had to be aware of what I was wearing. Short sleeves and cotton.
Okay.
Absolutely. But other than that, I just kept one foot in front of the other, and I found exercise. I walked a lot. I walked a lot through hot flashes. And, when the fatigue, it's funny. When I was fatigued, that's when I would walk. I just kind of walk it off.
Good for you.
So just kept kind of moving forward. And I made fun of myself because, a sense of humor, you have to have it.
Crucial.
And so often I'd be in a meeting, with 5 or 6 men. It was not uncommon for me to be the only woman in the room. And you did. It was obvious what was happening.
Yeah.
And, sorry guys, I'm having a Florida moment here. I need to go and get some water or something like that. Yeah, just have a sense of humor. And usually the guys were fine.
Yeah. Good.
Sometimes they were uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Humor is a huge part, I think.
Yeah, you can't take it too seriously. It's a moment in time. When you're in it, you're in it.
Yes.
And no one knows how long it's going to last. That varies from woman to woman, right? But it does pass, and the real challenges of menopause do diminish with time.
Yeah. Wonderful. Oh, well, thank you for that. Yeah. That's I love that, especially the humor part. I think that is so important to help us through this time. So,
if you don't laugh, what are you going to do?
Cry. And that's exactly it. That's exactly it. That's so, how about you, Cindy?
Little bit different story. I guess I was 49 when my doctor suggested I should go off the pill, because I'd been on it forever, for so long. And as soon as I did, I went straight into menopause.
Oh, wow.
And I guess what created the biggest problem was the mood swings, but that was because I wasn't sleeping. So I'd wake up in the night every 2 hours. having a hot flash. So then because I wasn't sleeping, and I was in a pretty stressful job, I guess, probably in a pretty stressful relationship, if anybody knows my story. So not getting any sleep and dealing with that, it just affected my mood. So I was very, became depressed, and so went to the doctor, and he put me on antidepressants, and then I went back to the doctor because I was still not getting any sleep, and he put me on hormone replacement therapy. So then after 10 years of that, I went off it, and I'm okay.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
I mean, occasionally,
Yeah. The secrets.
occasionally I'll wake up and I'm just drenched from my neck to my thighs. But most of the time I'm okay now.
Yeah.
And my moods are, instead of being like this, they're like this.
That's good. That's really good. And we will talk about depression and anxiety and all those things, I think, in a little bit too. I think that's important to go into a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
So,
But it's weird, just when you think it's over, and then all of a sudden something will happen, you know?
Yeah.
Another flash or another episode, but at least they're further apart.
Yeah, which is that would be a saving grace. So, all right. Well, thank you. And then your story. You
Yeah,
have an
so
interesting
again,
story.
mine's a little bit different. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in end of 2019. Had a couple of surgeries, had radiation, and then they put me on tamoxifen, which is a hormone blocking drug. 6 days into that, so my 6th day, all of a sudden hot flashes came on. So, and up until that point, I was like 21, 28 days regular, still like fully functional. So then hot flashes started. I probably have about, I don't know, 30 some a day.
Oh
I have
my
one right now.
goodness. You look very glamorous.
Well,
as you're
thank
going through it.
So it was a little bit frustrating to deal with because, you can't take anything to counteract them, like hormone replacement, like Cindy, because the whole purpose is to block the hormone so that the cancer doesn't come back.
Okay.
So a little bit different story there.
No, and that's, I think it's really important. Everyone said my story's a bit different, and yet I think it's important to acknowledge that's what the beauty of doing things like this is, because really everyone's story is completely different to any other woman's. And to have women watching and to be able to go, oh wow, that's me, and look at hers, look how glamorous she is as she goes through all these hot flashes, what's she doing to survive it, kind of thing. And so that's where I think this is very powerful. So we'll go back to talking about depression. We'll start with that topic for today. They say that between 45 and 68% of women actually can be challenged by depression as they go through menopause. And I know we're not going to talk about things from a medical standpoint, but I think experience and what got you through, and did anything help you as you went through this? Because I think there's an awful lot of women out there struggling with this kind of thing right now in a big way. Probably especially with what's going on in the world. But throw that together with menopause. Did you find anything
I really
helped?
wish that doctors wouldn't just automatically prescribe antidepressants. I think that there's other ways to deal with mental health in general, let alone with menopause, than just antidepressants. I mean, I know there's therapy, but there's a lot of holistic medicines out there too, and practices that maybe could be helpful. Could we try some of those, instead of here's pharma?
You're right. That tends to be the first thing that they can go to an awful lot. I'm going to read this out because there was a point by Dr. Pauline Mackey of the University of Illinois at Chicago, who said that there's mounting evidence that there's a special kind of depression that's actually linked to the hormonal changes. Since estrogen holds sway over the part of the brain involving emotion and stress, which is what we knew, which sort of goes back to that it would be really good if, instead of going right to the medications, if instead let's get to the bottom of the emotional turmoil that's going on, or any stressful situations. How can we help there? I don't want to make out that I have the answers and it's all that easy, but would that have helped you, do you think?
Is there another way?
Yeah.
Possibly, I don't know because I didn't try it, but I know I know the estrogen definitely helped, and unfortunately for Rhonda, she can't take it, and it's not really a great alternative long term. But I think that, man, our bodies need estrogen.
Oh, don't they?
It's like I'm in withdrawal. I need my estrogen.
That's how we were wired.
It is. It's crazy. Would you say that either whether it's depression or whether it's emotional concerns or mood swings, like has anyone else struggled with that going through this? Did you notice a change as you hit the menopausal age that this occurred or not? Did you find that you got through scot-free?
Yeah, well, and it's hard for me to define depression because I don't have depression probably like but there are situations or times where it would be like the end of the day and I've already struggled through so many hot flashes and I'll just like crumble. I'll just go up to my bedroom and cry or lay on the floor and cry, because I'm just so tired of the hot flashes because you get tired of them. You get tired of dealing with it. So that probably is a little bit of depression, probably, or just frustration. So I don't know, but not to the depths where I don't want to get out of bed or anything like that. So
I think they say mood swings, loss of interest. They've even said some women have contemplated suicide.
Yeah, so not that deep, but certainly frustration and sadness, like why am I going through this? And can they just not stop for a bit? And I've tried different foods, because sugar's aggravated, and so I've cut out fruit because I even found the natural fruit sugars aggravated a little bit.
Really?
So there's different food things that I've tried. Candy, I like candy, but so I had to cut that out, and fruit sugars. So I have to
No fair.
limit. Yeah, exactly.
Alcohol.
Red wine is really bad. Like there's different food triggers too. So.
And that's what Dr. Sarah was saying about that kind of thing, because at first I asked her if we modify our diet, and of course, and the dietitian said this last year when we interviewed her, it was wine or alcohol and coffee and all the things that we can get pleasure from here and there, but she also suggested it's not necessarily taking them out for good, it's taking them out for a while to see if they do improve anything,
Or reduce
anything. Wouldn't that be nice? So, but that's really interesting. I can imagine there would be an element of it would be very, very hard to take. Like, kudos to you for pushing through, because I can imagine that's the point we were making earlier, was how everything is connected. It's not I have hot flashes and I just have hot flashes. There's the lack of sleep. And if you haven't slept well and you're having hot flashes, then maybe you don't have tons of energy during the day. And do we make the best choices for both activity and food when we're very tired?
Exactly.
So there's this whole circle of symptoms, I guess, that are all connected to each other.
Yeah, it's very true.
So how before we get out, we're going to talk a bit later. I'll talk specifically about your situation as well. But when it comes to menopause in general, what do you wish? Is there anything that you wish that you had known before heading into this year, the time of life that it is for us? Is there anything? Did you know enough to think that, I wished I'd known, I wish I knew this about menopause? What are your thoughts on sort of that?
I wish I'd been allowed to enter into it naturally, to see exactly how my body would have reacted, because I don't recall my grandmother having hot flashes. I don't recall my aunts having hot flashes. So I don't know if a lot of strong menopausal side effects were in my family. So it would have really been nice for me to gradually go into it or naturally go into it, just to see if there would have been a difference. So I can't really.
Any thoughts on, was there anything that, having gone through it, that you're like, I wished I'd known this beforehand?
Not for me. I wished, one thing I did wish was that some doctors were better equipped to manage it. I think some doctors really, male doctors, they don't want to talk about it. And it's a big part of women's health, especially, with so many boomers now. I mean, how many menopausal women are out there? And yet there seems to be a real dearth of investigation.
You're right.
Around women's health issues. So that frustrates me, that the male body continues to be investigated so much more than the female body.
Yeah, and I think menopause is now starting to get its moment in the sun. So I think things are, for the next few generations even, I think it'll improve. I think our generation is starting the discussion, and I think I'm hopeful that it'll get better. I find it's hard, because a lot of people, for instance, I see a pelvic health specialist, and she is absolutely fantastic. Angela Grouse, she's been on the show a couple of times now. But I find it sad that we as women have to pay to go to those appointments. Like, if we want to know and learn more about how to handle our menopause, we actually have to pay to go to see someone. Yeah, and I do wish in that instance that what it looks like, I don't know, but if we could have that, how am I trying to say it? Because I can go back. So I find it, yes, I find it's a shame that we have to, if we want to get a lot of really good information, and we're not being sent to a specialist, we have to then find our own way, and we have to pay in order to do that. And I really hope that changes in the very near future.
Even the idea of holistic medicine or energy healing, stuff like that.
Oh, yes.
That is the same idea. You've got to pay for it. You've got to find somebody. It's not, sometimes people look at you like, are you crazy for trying stuff like that? And then try and find somebody and pay them to help you, when maybe that's where the help should be,
Yes. Because, and actually, funnily enough, that menopause moment I had a little while ago where I couldn't remember, that was the point from the previous interview that I had done with Dr. Sarah, was that things such as compassion and CBT have been, cognitive behavioral therapy, for anyone that doesn't know what that stands for, have been really, really successful in helping women's, especially the hot flashes. So, yeah, I think if there's a way to incorporate that into our actual doctor's visits where we're not having to pay, I'm sure that's a great big loaded conversation right there. But it would be one. Women, from what I have gathered, tend to feel very lost. They either feel very controlled and very, very in control of the situation when it comes to menopause, or they feel very lost and they don't really know who to talk to and what questions to ask and who to ask them of.
Or they just feel it's a part of life, I just have to deal with it.
And that's it too, because that's how it's always been. Which I think there's an element, I don't know about you, there's an element of that push through, being brave and pushing through, and resilient, I think is the word. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I do think at the end of the day it has been pushed aside. Just push through it, just get through it. You'll be there. 10 years and 10 years of this hot flashes and you'll be okay. And I don't think that's right. I do think we need to have access to,
for sure,
the specialists or whoever it is that would help us without being sent to a specialist. I think if we could have access to that.
Yeah, what else is out there besides push through? What'll make this easier?
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
That is such a good point. Yeah. It's a really good point. And I know it's out there. So let's, for a moment, we'll focus on you, Rhonda, because I know you've got a very interesting story, and yours was to do with your surgery. And because again, I know there's going to be women watching that their story won't be exactly the same. But can you tell me again exactly sort of the process, what happened with you with your journey, and where you are right now with it, would you say?
Yeah. So I was 53 when I had my first mammogram, and they found something right away in the right breast. So I went and saw a surgeon. We decided that we would have surgery to remove it, not a full mastectomy, but we'd just do the lumpectomy. The day of the surgery, when I was sent for the contrast mammogram, that's when they saw something in the right. Sorry, no, it was the right first, and then they saw something in the left.
Okay.
So while I was waiting for surgery, they said, we can stop the surgery, you can wait to get results, have another biopsy on the left, get results, have them both together, or we can continue with the right. So I said, no, I'm here, I'm prepped, we'll continue with the right and pray for the best that there isn't anything in the left. So that was in November, and then in December found out it was cancer as well in the left, and so the surgery on the left was scheduled for January. So I actually have 3 cancers. 2 in the right, 2 in the left, 1 in the right, all different forms. The 2 in the left, though, are connected. I actually brought Cindy with me to my first appointment because, you know, like when you're there and you're dealing with the cancer word, you don't have all the right questions. You don't know what to ask. Everything's a blur. So Cindy was she prepped a bunch of questions. She asked all the right questions. She wrote everything down and gave me like a 4-page report after our appointment.
Wonderful.
It was awesome.
We all need a Cindy.
Yes, we do. Everybody needs
with
a Cindy. Yes. And so from there, after the surgeries, then I had my radiation. I had 16 rounds of radiation. And then I was put on, my radiations ended in April, and then I was put on the tamoxifen starting in May.
Okay.
So I'm probably into my 3rd year now of tamoxifen. It is a 5-year treatment.
Okay.
With the option, not the option, but they will evaluate.
Okay.
And it might have to go on for another 5 years, but I'm hoping it'll be done. But again, I can make the choice. So I haven't fully made the choice. If they say I have to do another 5 years with all the hot flashes, and I don't have a lot of the symptoms other than the hot flashes, a little bit of joint pain. The feet pain have stopped. I used to have really bad feet pain too, but that has stopped. And so I don't know if I will go for another 5 years if they say I have to or not. I haven't made that decision mentally yet.
Okay.
Yeah, and they know that hot flashes is one of the severe side effects of the drug, because there's actually a doctor in London that you can be part of a clinical trial just to make sure that you're not getting too much of the drug or not enough. And a lot of the questions is evaluating the hot flashes.
Okay.
So yeah, that's
interesting. We will come back to you because we have to go for a break now.
Oh, sure.
But hold that thought because there's a lot of good information there. And we will be right back with the Modern Woman's Menopause Show. So welcome back to the Modern Woman's Menopause Show. I'm here with Lorna, Cindy, and Rhonda. We're having some great conversations. Rhonda, we had finished before the commercial. We were talking about your situation. What have you found? Is there anything that helps you, whether it's mindset, whether it's lifestyle, whether it's medications? Has there been anything that has helped you sort of get through this?
good friends. For sure.
Important.
Very important. I have a very good husband, very supportive husband. But I did find, playing around with the foods that I eat. And, exercise as well.
Yes.
For sure. But I was always an avid exerciser, but I do find that it helps. Cutting out sugars, for sure. Cutting out fruit. Just, I guess, maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Just trying to stay positive. That's the hardest thing, right? Because you're dealing with cancer. And then you're having all of these side effects from the drug that they put you on. It's just kind of like a mental game. But, you just have to...
I can
imagine.
And
my faith also.
Okay,
yes,
wonderful.
Yeah.
I can imagine you seem like you're an extremely resilient person, because I think resiliency comes into it, and it sounds like you have that in droves.
Yes, I think so.
She's a rock.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. No, you have that.
I've been through a lot. I mean, I lost my mother when I was very young, and my father wasn't, around and stuff. So I think, just everything has led me to this point, and I think resilience is probably a good.
So I know there's a few reasons for women going into, whether it's early menopause or being forced into menopause. So yours was one instance. There's going to be some women that had to have a hysterectomy or other surgeries. So I'm going to read this out. It's by Dr. Jen Gunter, and it's from her book, The Menopause Manifesto, which is an amazing book if you don't have it. And she states that regarding surgeries, if you go into early menopause, Due to surgeries such as hysterectomy, ovarian surgery, and uterine artery embolism, early menopause is likely due, in fact, to the impact of surgery on the blood flow to the ovaries and inflammation as tissues heal. However, if a woman's ovaries are actually removed, that's a different story, before the natural age of menopause, that is called surgical menopause, and it's typically actually associated with worse symptoms. So do you have any advice? You're in this situation. Do you have any advice that you could offer women in a similar situation to yourself?
I guess just to know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
And that you will make it through.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and just turn to, the support that you have around you. And if you don't have support, then seek out support.
Wonderful.
And like Cindy said, maybe there's something holistically that you can do as well, physically or mentally, to help you through.
Okay.
Or spiritual.
Or spiritually,
That too.
that's true, yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for being so open and sharing that with us. That's going to help a lot of people watching. That really is. So now I want to talk about brain fog. Lorna, you actually brought this up when we were off on commercial. And I think it's a really good point because I think a lot of women do struggle with this as we go through menopause. And, I think the first thing women go to probably is a fear of dementia or worse. And I think it's worth knowing that if they actually go to their doctor, for instance, I was actually a little worried because I'd started forgetting a few things, and I did go to my doctor and I did talk to my doctor about it. And there's actual questions that they can ask you to determine whether it's a serious case, whether you've got something else, or whether it's due to menopause. And that's really, really, it's calming. It's very helpful to know when you can actually speak to somebody and get the information. So let's talk about menopause and fog. What are your experiences with this?
Oh, jeepers. It was last week. I could not remember Goldie Hawn's name. Like for 5 minutes, I'm sitting there and I can see her, and it just, it's frustrating. Sometimes it can be embarrassing. But I think the one thing that we really need to have clarity around is what is brain fog and what is dementia.
Yes.
My mom just died in January, and it was a long, long journey down the road of dementia. And, sometimes when things aren't recalling the way that they used to, you wonder what's going on with my brain.
Yes.
So is it an age thing or a menopause thing?
I don't know what the medical or the technical term of brain fog is, but I think as women going through menopause, a lot of us have probably suffered with what's that word? Oh, what's that person's name? I know for me, it's almost like there's a wall there and I cannot think of the word or the name of the person or the thing. And it takes me a while, but I get back there eventually. I really do. And I have found that if I let it go, that it just comes back. Have you found the same case? Have you found that to be the case as well?
It does, yeah.
So yeah, I think that's important that, yes, because I'm sure there's a lot of women that do, it's the first thing you go to is you worry about something like that. So, we head into menopause, and whether we're in our 40s or 50s or 60s, whatever our age is that we're in the menopausal journey, and it tends to come upon us all of a sudden. We're thinking about menopause. We're in it. We're learning about it as we go. And yet I think it would be really incredible for women to learn and be made aware of what they can do to help themselves at a younger age. Do you have any advice that you would give younger women out there? If you have daughters, do you have any advice if you were sitting down talking to them about menopause on what to expect and how to help themselves as they get into it and as they go through it?
Talk about it. Talk about it to your friends, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's important. Don't keep it all to ourselves.
Great advice.
Prepare yourself, educate yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's it as well, is I think that we get to menopause and we get into whether it's your 40s or your 50s, and some women I know the 30s, but you get around that menopausal age, it hits you if you do get symptoms, and now you're learning. And I really, really wish that there was more discussion with women younger so that they could actually prepare themselves and know. They say that in some countries where women, I can't remember which country, but there's one country, they don't even have a word for menopause. But in those countries where they don't make a big thing about menopause, the women's symptoms seem to be far less severe. So I think there's something, that we can take from that in how we react to menopause, how we think about menopause, and how we think of ourselves as we go through menopause. They also say that women who look at it in a positive way, which it sounds like all three of you do, and I don't mean that because you're all here, but we've been talking earlier, and you've all got your way that you've looked at it, and I think when we can look at it more positively, they say that has a positive effect on some symptoms too, or can have.
Nice.
So,
I believe that.
Yeah, mental health comes into it a lot.
Yeah, attitude. And it's a moment in time. Life is long.
You're right.
Right? And menopause is going to happen sooner or later. But it's a moment in time. And, our bodies are so marvelously made. Rhonda, I'm so happy that, you've recovered from these surgeries. You can be really grateful for a healthy body.
And this is just a small part of everything.
Yeah.
And you know what? So this is sort of going off topic, but I believe this is all related to what my menopausal journey. Not that I want to talk about me, but it sort of goes into this how we think and everything. I was put onto this website, app, whatever you want to call it, recently, and it was for pain. At the same time, as I'm going through the process and I'm reading all of this and learning all this information, I'm applying it to, for me, things to do with menopause as well. And it's called The Pain Truth, so paintruth.org. And it's an amazing site, as I said, geared towards helping people with chronic pain. But the way it has us think really makes me realize about the connection between our brain and our body and how we can help ourselves through. And we know, as Dr. Lisa Mosconi says, women's health is brain health. And that's super important that we keep our brain very healthy. And we know that, there are so many things going on when it comes to menopause for us, but a big part of it is our brain is really adjusting to either, a much smaller amount of estrogen that it has to play around with. That's putting it really simply. But our brain is having to adjust, and if we can keep our brain healthy and do things for our brain, whether it is through mind work, whether it is through nutrition or activity, I think we're going to be really doing some good things for ourselves.
Perspective is a huge part of resiliency.
Yeah,
it's one of the pillars. And hope, and Rhonda, that's what I got from your message.
Yes.
Because without hope, that's when, we all have that little pilot light of hope.
Yeah.
That's where depression comes from, when that pilot light goes out.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Yep.
Really good way of putting it.
So, hope too is tremendous for attitude.
Yeah. No, that's...
I like that idea of perspective that you said, Lorna, about, life is long. This happens to us for a short period of time. Keep it in perspective of what it is. It doesn't make the symptom go away, but maybe mentally it'll help.
You're right.
Yeah, because, hopefully, speaking personally, I'm at a great point in my life in terms of career, in terms of, I've got this great grandchild, in terms of, having time for myself. I mean, life is very busy, but it's also slowed down in that I don't have responsibilities to family like I have in the past. And, not to indulge yourself, but it is a time to, take stock and be grateful.
I think it's very important.
Anyway.
Very important. So we know that there are certain things that we can have more chance to suffer from as we go through menopause. Cardiac issues, but also the brain. We know that our brain is just adjusting to there being either little estrogen or no estrogen. So it's the brain adjusting. And so anything we can do to help the brain, I think, is key. Dr. Lisa Mosconi, I think that's how you pronounce her name, that's what she says. She works with women and she's a neuroscientist, I think. And she says women's health is brain health. And so I think when we can really do the connection, when we can really talk to people, when we can build resiliency and have that time to ourselves, that's very important. We often think that we're being selfish when we're taking that time, but it's so important.
I know. I have a Saturday afternoon. I read a book for 2 hours, and I feel guilty. Like, what is that?
It's funny, isn't it? It is. It's very, very, very interesting. So would you say, you've gone through, everybody's journey's been different. Would you say there's one thing in particular that you have learned going through the journey that you'd like to share? We never know if we have something that we think is not important, but there might be somebody out there that really benefits from it. So do you have anything you'd like to share?
It's not easy.
It's real.
Yeah.
Those are two very good points, actually, though. Yeah. Again, I think if younger women knew, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's very real. It might be.
Yeah, childbearing years aren't easy either.
Yeah.
I mean, our bodies are meant to do hard things.
You're right.
Right?
You're
like
right.
menstruating is hard.
Yeah.
Childbirth is hard. Raising kids, it's a lot of work. I mean, of course, it's a blessing, but our bodies can do hard things, and menopause is one of those hard things.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And I think if women can really feel proud of themselves and have that, I mean, at the end of the day, we as women rock.
Oh, yeah.
We do rock.
Yeah.
We do. I think
We're designed to survive all of that.
Yeah, you're right.
By design.
So, the fact that we rock, we're very, very resilient, the stuff that we go through. And if you watch Dr. Sarah Tremaine Douglas's episode on hot flashes, and it was a great episode, you will have heard her comment on the fact why we lose our periods, why we go through menopause. And so often women can feel alone, and so often women can feel less than because they're going through menopause and they feel that that's it, they're not important anymore, they're invisible, when in fact it's such an important reason that we do go through menopause, and that we become, if we have children, that we become grandmothers. Go back and watch that episode sometime, because that was a really amazing point that she made, and it just goes back to the point that we're very resilient beings.
Oh, yeah. Mother Nature is very smart.
She really is, isn't she? It's really something. So I'm very grateful that you all came out. I've always loved getting women together and talking, because I really do believe we learn from each other. And I'm grateful that you came out today, because I've learned some things listening to you. I know there's going to be women watching that are going to be not feeling as alone, that are also going to, they're just going to feel more hope, especially women that feel lonely. I think it can be a very lonely time for women if they don't have people that they can talk to.
For sure.
It helped me just being here.
Did it?
Just hearing some of the insights from these other ladies.
Wonderful.
Helped me, so, yeah.
And don't you find that, I don't know if you sit down with your friends and talk about things like menopause, but I know that when people, for instance, hear that I have this show, the conversations that happen are endless. And that's what it is the information. All of a sudden you're getting information from other women. Yes, you're connecting, but the stuff that we learn, different perspectives, I think it's important. It's cool. And that is it for this week's episode of the Modern Woman's Menopause Show. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you got some amazing information from today. And let's keep the conversation going. Time for your sparkle of wisdom, my friends. We've got a group together talking, offering some awesome conversation. So let's talk about the benefits of socializing on the brain and on our menopausal journey. Did you know that being social can be beneficial to the health of our brain? And knowing how menopausal women really need to take care of our brain, check out the ways it can be helpful to you. I was doing some research today. As per Psychology Today, these are some tips that they especially offer. So, being social can help boost the brain and the brain's health. It can help lower the risk of cognitive diseases such as Alzheimer's and dementia. It can increase longevity, and social people tend to live longer. So getting together with that cup of java is helping you, my friend. Being social helps our immune system as well, helping stave off or fight things like colds and flu. And being that it benefits our brain, it can also help our mental health, decreasing sometimes feelings of depression. It's really been proven that you can absolutely improve your mood by building social connections. And as a last point, if you want a podcast to listen to, check out Sanjay Gupta's Chasing Life. It's one of my favorite, and it's all about ways that you can benefit your brain. And ladies, we know we need to do this. So I hope you found this useful, and let the sparkles fly! Wow. I really hope you enjoyed today's discussion with our guests. I really enjoyed doing this. I really appreciate them as well for being here, opening themselves up to share what can be a really challenging time for so many people. But we all know in the sharing that we help so many others with our tips and our tricks. And also it helps people not feel so alone. And you never know, something that has helped you that you think is quite minor, by sharing it, you might find that it actually is huge for somebody else's journey. I also wanted to touch on a few of the topics that they chatted about a little bit more, so I hope you find this useful as well. And you can always reach out to me after the show if you want more information about this. So one of the topics, of course, was hot flashes. My goodness. And again, this is a symptom that's had by so many women and in so many different ways. Today we heard especially from Rhonda about the multitudes of hot flashes that she has daily. And yet I've never been so inspired and amazed at a woman pushing through something like this with such positivity and such grace. I'm lucky to say that I don't struggle in a big way with hot flashes. I have very few. So I'm not necessarily able to speak to the experience of having them in a really huge, significant way and what had helped them. But as a coach and as a women's health coach, and in particular someone that's been listening for years and years to women and their struggles and doing the research, I do know that how we handle these things is huge. Our mindset, how we look at them, and how we think about them, more importantly, positively or negatively, has a huge impression on what goes on. I do know that how we handle these things is huge. Our mindset, how we look at these things, and how we think about them positively or negatively. Oh no, it's awful, or you know what, my body's just doing what it needs to do, let it do its thing. These can have big benefits to your system if you're looking at it the right way. It doesn't sound like much, but ladies, mindset is huge. I'll be doing an episode this season on all we can do to help ourselves feel more in control over this journey when we can feel very out of control, and this will be a huge part of that topic. So if hot flashes are a constant for you, learning these tools could be really important and a real game changer. Next, we had a really good discussion as well about depression, anxiety, mental health challenges. In particular as well, the focus was being lonely. And as I've mentioned, you don't want to keep these things to yourself. Perhaps years ago, sharing our mental challenges was considered a weakness. It's not so anymore, my friend. I think you are one of the strongest people out there if you actually are struggling and you do reach out to someone for help. Loneliness has been proven to be bad for our health, period. And keeping these things in is not in any way going to help us feel better or improve our health. There is always someone to reach out to, even if you think there isn't, be it a friend, a community, a doctor, health professional, anyone. And if you're still feeling alone and you still feel you have no one to turn to, please reach out to me. You will be heard, you will be supported, and I'll help you connect with who you need to connect to in order to help you shine. Menopause can be lonely. We've said this over and over again. Women can feel invisible. Yet, it is certainly a time of life where you should be given the opportunity to thrive. You should be allowed to give yourself grace and know you'll get to the other side singing and dancing. So please don't do menopause alone. Reach out, talk. And if you're struggling with any mental health challenge of any kind, and nothing is too small, my friend, there is nothing wrong with you. You are what we call human, and you deserve the support. We also touched on how menopause is a really different experience for so many, dare I say all, women. I have worked with women the majority of my wellness career. Mostly they've been women over 30. Much of the time, they've been women over 40. I can't tell you how much over the years I have heard about menopause and the challenges and the hot flashes and the feeling of this. And it really is this that started my interest in working with this group in a major way over the years. Then as I neared the stage myself, now I am postmenopausal. And with it being over the last 2 years that I've been doing this show and other groups, I guess, where I've been discussing and focusing on this topic, I'm really grateful, especially with people here at Rogers, for allowing me to take this on and share this on a larger scale. The comments I hear on a larger basis about menopause, the support they're feeling, and how they're learning. And really, after all of that, I'm yet to come across any two women with the same journey. I know they say there are approximately 34 official symptoms, but what about the 3,000 other ones? Okay, slight exaggeration there. Definitely a made-up number, so please, it's a made-up number, but each conversation I have with any woman, I hear about different symptoms. No one journey is the same, so I'd like to offer you these thoughts. Just because people you know might have what you consider to be absolutely awful symptoms, you feel maybe you only have one or two minor symptoms, that does not mean that your journey is any less challenging and any less important. It does not mean you don't have to ask for help. Doesn't mean you can't complain, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't look for resources. It also doesn't mean you should stay quiet because you aren't sweating profusely at every turn like somebody else. Your journey is your journey, and it's the most important journey to you, and it's just as important as the next person's. So don't feel that you have to belittle your journey because you feel your symptoms aren't perhaps as significant as others. The other point I want to make is this. Don't put everything you feel down to menopause. Yes, there are many symptoms, but don't guess, and at the same time, don't assume. Go to your doctor, seek the help from a medical professional, and get checked out. Verify that it is, in fact, menopause. Your health is way too important to ignore. And let's flip the other way. At the same time, it's also imperative you do ask your doctor and health provider, since perhaps you're worrying that something isn't menopause, when in fact it is. Information is power. I'm a real believer in that. Find the answers, don't just assume. And then you know your game plan or what you can create as a game plan. So I want to offer an example. I found out I was getting out of bed. This is within the last year, and I found it extremely hard to walk. It was painful. I literally was bent over double. I couldn't walk properly. And as someone who's been in health and wellness since basically the day I was born, another slight exaggeration perhaps, this seemed extremely alien to me. So I went to my pelvic health specialist, who happens to be my physio, and she had a very sweet smile on her face as I explained my agony. Now, had you asked me, I would have actually said that my problem was my Achilles tendon and that it was about to snap. That's how I felt every morning. But no, she looked at me with her smile and said, "I know what it is, Carolyn. It's menopause." Well, what do you know? Going a step further, the pain was in my Achilles and I thought that it would be snapping. In fact, it was referred pain from my tight glute and was showing up in my Achilles. So that's just an example of something that is menopause that I didn't realize was, but also a completely different part of the body is where the pain is showing up. So that's why we need to talk to people so that we can learn what we need to do. So last but also not least, we talked about the grandmother effect. I believe I read about this in Dr. Jen Gunter's book, The Menopause Manifesto, and honestly, I think that's a book every woman should have. Her book and our discussion was how it's such an important time in menopause. When we stop having our periods, or we stop the ability to have children, it doesn't mean we're useless or defunct. And as much as maybe some previous generations may have felt that way, it's not the case. It's a time to celebrate. What if we saw this as an honor instead? I mean, think of the positives of no longer having to bother with a period. If you had children, undoubtedly it means that they're now older and can look after themselves. If you didn't, it means you're in an amazing time of life. There is freedom to that, isn't there, in either scenario? Seeing our children in a different light, if we have them, being proud of all they're doing and knowing we were so much to do with that journey of theirs. And if it was a bad outcome, don't worry, it's not your fault. Joking apart, as Jen mentions in the book, and I really do love the book, this is how Mother Nature literally made us, or built us really. She took our periods away for a reason. This way, if the ability to have children is taken away with age, it means at this time we're therefore able to give our help, energy, focus, wisdom, everything to the younger generation. We can offer young mums going through the journey now of motherhood. We can give them the wisdom that we learned. And we have the time, the effort, and the energy from good night's sleeps to help with those children. See what I mean? This stage of life, known as crone, but again, that really does bring a negative connotation to it. In our culture, it seems, and yet many other cultures, it demands such respect. The crone stage should be your time, my friend. Your time to help future generations, to shape them, to support them, and most importantly, your time for you. Now is the time to ensure you're doing all you can for your health, for your happiness, for your journey, ultimately for your loved ones to benefit from you being so great and energetic and feeling so good. And really, at the end of the day, it's about doing it for you. If I can help you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at info@coachcarolyn.ca. Let me help and support you. Thank you so much for listening today.